The automotive industry is going through some challenging times right now. Trying to keep up with the newest technology as a technician, being able to do programming, coding, initialization, ADAS calibration. For that matter, just being able to access a vehicle without an OE tool, that's a challenge for a technician. And we wanted to provide that solution. I'm Chad from Topdon, and the Phoenix Remote is the answer. The solution. What is the solution? Well, the solution is to have every OE tool at your shop. And that's not practical. No one can afford to have every OE tool to work on every make and model. And to be specialized in a specific car line, that just doesn't happen as much as we want it to. The solution became the Phoenix Remote. And it's more than just a scan tool, because it's a really good scan tool. Having all the power of our complete Phoenix line, being able to scan, read and clear codes, live data, graphing, online programming, coding, initialization, memory resets, and so much more for all your vehicle lines, Asian, domestic, and European. We built that into the Phoenix Remote. So it's not just a scan tool, it's also a remote diagnostics and programming platform. So it really is the best of both worlds. We give you the ability to do all of your normal scans with a professional level scan tool, but we also give you the ability to phone a friend for help. And that phone a friend gives you the ability to use an OE tool or an OE scan remotely. Imagine this, giving you the ability to phone the friend to be able to do programming on a brand new vehicle that just came off the lot, or being able to do a calibration for ADAS on a brand new vehicle that maybe your current scan tool doesn't have software for. The Phoenix Remote provides that solution by letting us use that OE tool remotely from a distance and programming that vehicle or calibrating that vehicle. So let's go through the process of how this works. And to do that, I'm going to introduce you to Hawken.
So now we're going to go over some of the technical features of the Phoenix Remote. One of the greatest things about this tool is that it does support all of the latest communication protocols. That includes CAN 2.0, CAN FD, DOIP, J2534, DPDU, and RP1210. This ensures that your tool will be able to communicate with all of the latest vehicles as well as many of the vehicles in the future. The tool also has cloud-based programming support for 9+ brands. What does that mean to you? Well, you don't have to place a remote support request for programming certain vehicles. You'll be able to do it directly through your tool as long as you're connected to the internet. The tool also supports topology mapping, which is something you've come to expect from all of the Phoenix professional line tools. This allows you to see which modules are communicating and which modules have faults. The tool is also AutoAuth approved for the Stellantis Secure Gateway access. Now, you do need to register the tool with AutoAuth, but once you do that, you'll be able to perform all of the functions that the OEM tool does once you're past the Secure Gateway. The tool also includes 2 years of updates, and you will have access to the Remote Support Professional Network, which will be available on most major brands that you're going to work on a regular basis. You're also going to have access to remote technical assistance if you need help with diagnosis on a vehicle or something to that effect. The tool also has a high-resolution camera, which allows you to improve your inspection quality and documentation. This is also unique because this has a flash, which we will turn the tool over here in a moment and show you where the flash is as well. The tool also charges when it's connected to the OBD port, which is excellent because most tools do not do this. And when you're doing a remote programming session or any tool operations at all, it's really nice to have the tool constantly being recharged while it's connected to the vehicle. So we're going to look at the hardware a little bit here, just in a little more depth. You're wondering what this box over here is for. This box is what's actually on the other end where the support professional is. They will connect the OEM factory tool to this box. This box has Ethernet on the other end that it plugs into, and it essentially becomes a very long OBD cable. So it's as if the factory tool is connected directly to your vehicle, and we're just using the internet as a gateway, essentially. So you will not receive one of these when you are working on the vehicles with your Phoenix remote, unless for some reason you are part of the support network. Now, the remote itself has a number of features that are really nice. Number one, it does not have what we would normally refer to as a dongle. Instead, it just has a cable. Now, you might ask why that is. Well, it's because all the functions that are normally built into the dongle are actually built into the physical tool itself. It's kind of nice because you don't have to remember to get your dongle out of the vehicle. You don't have to be concerned about whether or not you left it. And I know that that's a common concern amongst many technicians, is that it is easy to forget some of the ones that are wireless. So in this case, that will not be a concern. You're very unlikely to forget the entire tool in the vehicle. On the top here, we do have the Ethernet port, which you are always going to want to be plugged into anytime you're doing any remote support or programming functions. We have a USB port here, which is USB-C, which is a great feature because you can charge through that. You can also transfer files like videos, screenshots, things of that nature to a PC. And then if we turn the tool around here, we'll see the camera on the back. And again, as I mentioned before, this does have a flash, which is truly unique. Most tools out there do not have a flash on the back, and that's great because you're always going to get a better quality picture, and it's not subject to the lighting that might exist in the shop that you're currently working in. And as we know, there are some shops that do struggle with good quality lighting. So now we're going to go into looking at what a remote session would look like when you place an order as a customer. Okay, now we're going to talk about the on-car portion of the Phoenix remote. So this is just going to go through a few things here that you're going to see from the user end of the tool. Now we're going to set up a remote programming session here. We do have our Topdon T90,000 Tornado connected to maintain the voltage on the vehicle during a programming event. I would also recommend using it anytime you're doing any key on engine off testing. That's a good policy. Protects the battery, keeps the vehicle from going dead, also prevents any incorrect readings that you might do in your diagnostic process. So you might be able to see it up on the tool here, but it is monitoring the voltage on the tool, and we're at about 14.2 to 14.3 volts. So that is good. That's definitely what you want when you are going to do programming. You can see I've got a hardline Ethernet connection to the tool, which is absolutely crucial if you're going to do any programming. You want to be connected directly to your router via that Ethernet cable, which is included with the tool. So you'll note that here up on the top. We've also got the hardline connection to the vehicle. So now we're going to look at setting up a remote session. So it's going to default to the screen when you start up the tool. We've got the remote up in the top left corner here, and then you're going to have a list of providers that you can use. So basically, you can also click this remote button where it says more, and you can see all of the different providers. Right now, we're going to click on a provider here, and we're going to basically set up an appointment for programming. So we're going to click on the appointment button, and then you can select what service you want. So there's a bunch of different choices: basic diagnosis, online programming, coding and initialization, modification, getting hidden features, maintenance light reset, anti-theft matching, new energy vehicles would be what I believe is either battery electric vehicles or hybrids, and then others. So others you could use if you're not really sure what category something falls into, or maybe it's a service that doesn't really match up with one of those choices. So we're going to actually select online programming, and then problem description. Basically, you can type in what you need. So we're just going to put in that we're programming Ford Explorer PCM. And then we're going to select a vehicle. So it gives you all the options here. Now, some of these, it'll ask you to narrow it down and put in the specific model and whatnot. In this particular case for Ford, they don't ask. We're just putting in Ford all. Then you're going to make an appointment. And the appointment screen looks like this, where you'll have days and hours. So basically, you'll put in your appointment request like this. We're just going to say 12:35. And then we're going to say right here under it says the remaining package. This is where you're going to see your cost on the order if it is published. If it is not, you'll talk with the service provider and they will iron that out with you. But generally speaking, it's going to show up right here in the remaining package. We're going to go ahead and publish the order. And now that service provider has the option to pick this order up, and then we will be able to chat with them and discuss the timing and any other details that need to be worked out. They may need a technician to be at the vehicle when they're doing a service, to cycle the key in many cases. That's very common on any remote orders. So now we can go back to the main screen here. You can see that it shows that we're waiting for an order to be picked up right here. Now on the other side of the connection, on the side where the provider is, they will have a screen that will show them that there is an order waiting to be picked up. They will then pick up the order, and after they pick up the order, then you can communicate with that provider via voice call, video call, or chat. So multiple options to get in touch with them. Obviously, you can also contact them via phone if that is necessary, if you'd prefer to do that instead of talking through the tool. But great option there as far as being able to get in contact with the support professional who is going to assist you. So that's essentially what you're going to be looking at when you're dealing with the remote sessions. Another feature that the tool does have that we discussed previously is you do have options under More right here. And under More, this is where the programming that is part of the tool subscription is included. So if we click on Programming, these are all the manufacturers that we do have online programming hosted through the tool via our servers. So if you have one of these brands, you can connect to the vehicle and at least try to do the programming on it from the tool. Now again, you do need to be connected hardline to the internet like we are here, and hardline to the vehicle, and of course have your T90,000 or an equivalent programming charger maintainer connected to the vehicle. Once you have that, then you can go through and select the brand and attempt to do the programming through the cloud services that we offer. If for some reason that is not possible, then you would want to place a remote support order.
Hawken, thank you very much for going through the technical side of the tools, but I think that brought up another question that our viewers may have as well. And what is the difference between the Phoenix Remote versus the other Phoenix tools that are in the lineup?
It's a good question, Chad. So the Phoenix Remote supports programming via the vetted professional service providers to provide OEM programming coverage on many popular vehicles. This is above and beyond what you're going to get out of some of the other Phoenix tools, which is why the Remote is a specialized and extremely valuable tool. The tool also provides online support, so you do have access to those same experts for technical assistance, which is great. And the tool also has the cloud-based programming for 9+ brands, which is a huge advantage because you don't always have to place a support order for every vehicle. Some vehicles you will be able to physically use the cloud servers to program modules on a given vehicle without having to place a support order. All of this will be using the internet. So when you are using the tool, you do want to make sure you are connecting that Ethernet cable directly to the Phoenix Remote. This is for stability of the network and data integrity, which is absolutely crucial when you're doing any programming session. It is also important that you do have a maintainer, and when we say maintainer, we do mean something like the T90,000 Tornado, and that does hold the voltage at a very stable level and vary the current as you are performing the programming functions. That's very crucial also because you can actually brick a module if you do not have stable voltage.
And by brick a module, you mean I can't fix that?
Correct. Then the module would require replacement and programming again.
And the Ethernet cable that you mentioned, that's actually included in the kit. So we provide that in the Phoenix Remote, so you don't have to go out and necessarily procure your own. So that's also a great benefit as well. So what are some of the benefits of a shop purchasing a Phoenix Remote?
It's a good question. So the Phoenix Remote opens up the ability for a shop to add programming services to their card of services, right? Tooling is cost prohibitive to add many different manufacturers to your programming repertoire, if you will. Many of the OEM subscriptions cost thousands of dollars a year. You have to buy a specialized interface. Maybe you can use a J2534. Some vehicles you can't. If you purchase the Phoenix Remote, then you don't have to buy all of those OEM tools. You can simply access our provider network and get access to the programming services you need. It's important to keep in mind that there's a lot of studies going on in the field to understand how much programming is going on out there. And we did actually find a recent study performed in 2021. 65% of mechanical repair shops send all of their programming work outside their shop. So whether that's to the dealership or to a mobile diagnostic or a programming service, that's a lot of business that's going out the door. Only 25% of collision shops are actually performing any programming service or are capable of it. So that's, again, a tremendous volume of business that they are saying no to or farming out to somebody else. And in many of those cases, because of the structure of the subscriptions and everything else, shops don't have an ability to make a whole lot of profit on those jobs. On the other hand, through the remote network, they may be able to, number one, reduce the risks that their shop is exposing themselves to from a transportation standpoint, because if the vehicle has to travel somewhere else to be programmed, that's a risk for the shop as well as the customer's vehicle. It's also going to cut down lost man hours, so you don't have to send a porter or a front shop person or maybe a technician, depending on the size of your shop. So you're not going to lose hours on that, which is huge. Most of the shops that don't have any programming capabilities right now tend to be smaller shops, 1 to 5 bays. So it's really important to keep that in mind if you are one of those shops, that you'll be able to add this service to your repertoire for a very affordable price and provide that service to your customers. And again, keeping more business in-house. So that's always a good thing if you're running a business. As much as you can keep in-house, that's always a good policy. Good for profit, good for customer service, and also to just project that professional image to your customer as well.
And we see that shops are working on more than just one style of car. So would you agree that it kind of takes the talent aspect out of it as well? I don't have to have someone specialized in Honda to do Honda every day and someone to be specialized in Toyota and so on and so forth. With this remote platform, it gives us the ability to have that specialized person on the other end of the line.
100%. And to that point, almost even beyond just knowing how to run the OE tool, there's also a lot of things that come with when you have all those OEM tools. You have to have separate hard drive partitioning. There's all sorts of quirks about how they interact with the interface, the J2534. Because of Windows updates, it can break things all the time. So you don't have to worry about any of those complex headaches that are going to come with that. So that's a really huge advantage as well.
It simplifies the process.
Yes, it does.
Absolutely.
Massive simplification.
So what does the market for programming service look like today? Is it a large market or is it small? What can a shop expect from that aspect?
It's a good question. So it's always important to make an evaluation anytime you own a business. Does it make sense from a business case, right? And we did look at that same independent study that was performed independently, and we found that $425 million in programming services were actually referred out from independent shops to the dealer. That's not counting mobile programming services or remote programming or anything of that nature. $425 million in 1 year. That's a huge chunk of revenue that is being left on the table by independent repair shops. And likely if you're not participating in the programming, then that's being left on the table by your shop as well. This is obviously just a portion of the programming, because again, I said, we're not talking about if you have a remote person that does it for you, or maybe someone who comes mobile and does it. That's just the dealer stuff. And $425 million is a huge amount of money to be leaving on the table. So something to keep in mind if you are making a decision on the business case for whether or not it makes sense to get into this for your shop.
So there's money to be made at this programming thing. And that money that can be made potentially could pay off this tool and get you an ROI much faster than trying to do it with a mobile diagnostic tech, or like you said, trying to troop this thing all the way to the dealership at the same time. So yeah, there's definitely a return on the investment on a tool like this Phoenix Remote.
It pays for itself very quickly. And it continues to be a profit center going forward. Aside from the fact that this tool also can do things like, let's say for instance, you have a brand new car that comes in, a customer doesn't like to take it to the dealer. Maybe all the aftermarket tools out there, including ours, maybe it can't do a service function. Well, what are you going to do in that situation? Are you going to tow it to the dealer? Are you going to call a mobile person? No. You can log into the network. You can place a support order. You'll be able to get bailed out, if you will, by the support network, and you'll be able to keep the vehicle in-house and project again that you can do everything the dealer can do. Your customer will feel much more comfortable with you and ultimately want to bring you more of their business. So
it's not all about the programming side. Yeah, that's a big benefit of it, but it gives us the ability to do maybe even some of those more basic things. An OE level scan with an OE tool sometimes is required. So that gives us that ability too. So it's not just the high level stuff. So which shops can benefit from purchasing the Phoenix Remote? What different styles of shops?
So I'd say any mechanical repair shop that either doesn't do a lot of programming, does no programming, or maybe only supports 1 or 2 brands right now. And again, we talked about cost prohibitive tooling, cost prohibitive subscriptions. More and more of the OEMs are imposing additional costs in the programming sequence. So, might have to pay 3 different fees to be able to program one car. So that's really a great thing. If your shop is performing any ADAS, that's another thing to keep in mind. So if you do need to perform an ADAS calibration on a newer vehicle, and again, maybe the aftermarket tooling hasn't had the software update for 2022, but you're a collision shop and you need to be able to perform that calibration. Well, you can get access to the remote provider network, and you'll still be able to complete that ADAS calibration. You'll also be able to do pre and post scans, which is huge, especially for collision shops. More and more that's becoming a thing where collision shops need to prove that they're properly taking the vehicle through the repair process and verifying that it is safe to go back into service. So it's much easier to realize a rapid return on investment for a shop because of all of the different things that this tool can make your shop capable of doing with just one tool, right? One tool, many options as far as what it can resolve for, headaches, questions, things like that for you. It's a huge solution for all of those things for your shop.
And we see that there's a lot of smaller shops, right? It's the owner, he's operating, and maybe 1 or 2 technicians. So can a smaller shop maybe benefit from this as well as a larger shop?
Absolutely. And I think that's really key, because as the smaller your shop is, the lower your revenue is. And ultimately, it's much more difficult to justify that investment in any tool, right? It's difficult to say, hey, I'm going to go out and buy a tool that costs this or this. Certainly, if you had to buy multiple tools, it's really cost prohibitive. So again, the remote's going to be huge for those shops, but also for the larger shops too, because again, it just it expands your capabilities by a massive amount. And of course, anytime you can do that and only have to buy one tool, it's really a tremendous advantage for your business, for sure.
And one of the things I wanted to go back to that you had mentioned was the cost prohibitive piece, right? We're not just buying an OE tool, we're also having to pay for subscriptions or multiple subscriptions. And it's not most tools are not a blanket anymore where I buy one subscription for the whole year. We're buying it by the VIN. And specific manufacturers, you have multiple fees in that. So it can get very, very expensive very quick to try and be OE supplied through the whole thing.
It can also get dicey in the discussion with your customers. Some customers are becoming aware of some of these subscriptions, and they start to ask questions of your shop. Well, why does it cost this? Or why does it cost that? Things of that nature. They're starting to research more and understand more of it. So if you have something more straightforward, like, hey, we have one tool, this is what we do all our programming is, it's a fixed cost, here's how it is, or here's the cost we've structured into our business plan, much more straightforward to explain that to the customer, which at the end of the day, that's who you're serving, and your communication with them is absolutely crucial.
So here's what it comes down to. It's not just about the tool. Now the Phoenix Remote, it's an amazing tool and it can do some amazing things, but it's more than that. It's about the system and the network that Topdon has provided to support you as the technician in the shop. To be able to finish that job instead of having to take it back to the dealership. To be able to finish that car on time for your customer.